Researchers conducted 2 experiments. Experiment 1 consisted of 2 parts essentially, a training period consisting of 30 trials and a testing period consisting of 10 trials. In the first 10 trials of the training period, there was a small blue circular platform with a radius of 5 centimeters the bees were placed in. Bees were challenged with a task that, if accomplished, would receive a reward. 18 bees were used in the experiment, and the task they faced was that they had to try to move a small yellow ball to the center of the platform within 5 minutes. The reward was that they would receive a 30% sucrose solution that was located inside of the ball. Experimenters were able to control a door on the ball that led to the sucrose via a remote system. Trials: if a bee could not move the ball to the center, an experimenter would demonstrate what the bee should be doing. They did this by using a plastic bee attached to a transparent stick that would move a ball to the center. The plastic bee would then be rewarded with the opening of the door to gain access to a sucrose solution inside. In later trials, bees were only rewarded if they accomplished the task by themselves. In order for the bees to advance to the next 20 trials, the bee had to achieve a 60% success rate. 14 bees advanced on, and the next 20 trials were the same as the first 10, including the demonstrations, with the only difference being the size of the platform increasing to a radius of 7.25 centimeters. The subsequent testing period took place on the larger platform, but without the demonstrations.
In the social demonstration condition, a previously trained bee moved the ball closest to the edge of the platform to the center and received a sucrose reward. A participant bee observed this happening. The ghost demonstration consisted of a magnet moving the ball from the edge of the platform to the center, and the participant that observed this process received a sucrose reward when the ball reached the center of the platform. This condition allowed the researchers to determine if seeing the process of a ball moving would be enough for bees to understand their role in gaining the sucrose reward during the testing phase. The third experimental condition was the no demonstration condition. The ball was not moved to the center while the bees observed, but instead they encountered the platform with a ball already in the center and sucrose already present. This condition allowed researchers to see if the association between the ball's location in the center and the sucrose reward's presence and see if it would be sufficient for bees to perform the desired task during the testing phase. After the training phase for each of the 3 experimental conditions, the bees were observed in a testing phase, and the time taken to move the ball to the center of the platform was recorded. If a bee was successful, sucrose was added to the center of the platform. However, if a bee did not complete the task in 5 minutes, it was removed from the platform, but allowed to be tested again at a later time. During the testing phase, 3 balls were placed in the lanes, but none were glued to the platform. This gave the bees the opportunity to move any ball on the platform and show whether they would copy the demonstration if one was given, or if they would choose the most efficient manner to get the sucrose.
Let's go over the path of the bees in this experiment. In the first trial, the bees traveled in random directions and took meandering paths to the center of the ring. By the last trial, the bees directly traveled from the starting location to the center of the ring because they learned that there was a reward at the center. Overall, the bees were most likely to enter the center region from the half of the platform where the ball started. In part 1 of the experiment, 9 of the 18 bees survived and succeeded in passing all of the test phases by moving the ball to the center region, gaining access to the reward. All 9 remaining bees successfully gained access to the reward. In each progressing trial, the bees took less time to move the ball to the center region because they learned to optimize their strategy and speed by traveling with the ball for a significantly shorter distance. This graph documents the progress of 4 bees in the trial. Poor bee number 2 died because of natural causes after test trial 4. The overall trend for bees 1, 3, and 4 is that the bees took less time to complete the task over time. Bees' social learning abilities. This test analyzed whether bees learned to move the ball to the center quicker from watching a trained bee accomplish the task by watching a ghost demonstration in which a magnet was used to move the ball from beneath the ring, or by having no demonstrations. As seen in the first graph, observers of trained bees had on average more successful trials. The second graph shows that on average bees were watching a live demonstrator bee took less time to complete each trial. In most of the successful trials, bees chose to move the ball closer to the center of the circle instead of directly copying demonstrators who moved balls that were further from the center. Finally, a generalization test was conducted to see if the bees were capable of moving a black ball as opposed to the previously used yellow ball to the center. Take a look at this graph. In the majority of trials, bees chose to move the black ball because it was the nearest to the center, even though there were other yellow balls in the ring. These results are not too shabby.
This experiment serves as an example of an insect performing goal-directed behavior for which there is no strict mechanism developed through the organism's evolution. The experiment successfully does this by requiring behavioral flexibility far beyond any situation a bee would typically encounter in nature, such as recognizing new flowers, and did not require actions within the bee's heritable behavior. Thus, any behavior the bees learned in the experiment was testament to their ability to learn. Other distinctions from previous work include the fact that the bees did not have their task or stimulus already associated with the reward, and the fact that there was no reliance on local and stimulus enhancements. The bees also did not simply mimic observed behavior, but conducted themselves along optimal routes that varied from observed behavior. This is again testament to the learning ability and behavioral flexibility of the bees. Finally, a comment on the evolutionary aspects of behavioral flexibility. Simply put, behavioral flexibility allows for more efficient sourcing of food, resulting in increased fitness.